Hello and welcome to the France 24 interview. On today's programme, I have the pleasure of meeting with one of the best-known sopranos in the world, a woman who has sung with some of the greatest pianists, some of the best orchestras, over the course of a career that has spanned more than 30 years. A woman with a repertoire as vast as it is varied, and who is today one of the greatest selling lyrical artists in the world. I'm speaking, of course, of Barbara Hendricks. Thanks very much indeed for meeting with us today.
Thank you.
You've just published this biography, and it is extraordinary, and the description I've given of your career is in a few words. It would take much longer to go into properly. To imagine the beginnings, to imagine the career that was to follow when you consider that you were born in segregated America, in an Arkansas that was divided, and where the civil rights movement hadn't even given, in a sense, the hope that things might change.
Yes, but what was wonderful is to have been really a witness of that history, to be there really as a child and watch it develop, the hope that was in that movement, and to be a part of it was, of course, it was difficult, but at the same time, it was positive, because it was, I mean, I think when you fight for yourself, you have a goal, and when you have an engagement, then you put things in a perspective that is not sad, even though there was much suffering, death, and not around me personally, but in the movement. And so to have been able to witness that, already to begin my life being a real witnessing history quite close up.
You describe indeed the events in Little Rock, which were to have such great repercussions at the very start of the civil rights movement, and you really saw up close, in a sense, the beginnings of something that was to transform not only America, but also the possibilities that would be open to you.
Yes, we translate immediately into my own personal life. And of course, I was 8 years old when Central High School in Little Rock was desegregated. And we were living in, my father had his church in North Little Rock. And so Little Rock and North Little Rock are just divided by the Arkansas River. They could really be the same town. But to find myself so close and to be watching the events on a neighbor's television, because we didn't own a television at that time, and to realize that so many things came together that I had remembered, clippets of overheard conversation about something that had happened to someone, then when my parents or the adults would get quiet when one of us would come into the room. And I would remember sort of the ends of those conversations, and then I began to put it together to remember, yes, that hate that I saw, that was toward those young people who just wanted to go to school, had also something to do with a conversation about a teenage boy who had been lynched in Mississippi, who turned out to be Emmett Till. And I began to realize where my place was in the society in which I was born, already at the age of 8. Before that, my parents, if I wanted to buy an ice cream cone and sit down and eat it at the place that I bought it, they would find some excuse like, no, we're late and we can't stay now because I have things to do. And it was only after that event when they would really say, but we don't have the right to sit here and eat. We can buy a sandwich, but we can't sit here and eat. So that changed also with them, because then they had to acknowledge what the real reason was, which they had protected me from up until then.
In a sense, then, those events give you at that young age the knowledge of that place that you have in society, but very quickly you find a way out of that. In a sense, your talent opens doors that were unimaginable, I suppose, at that stage. And in the book, you describe very well how a series of events takes you to Aspen, and then to living with a white family, which opens, in your own mind, perhaps, a view of a world you didn't yet know, and then doors very quickly open. But it happens in a way quite quickly.
Well, I mean, not so quickly, but quite naturally, really, quite organically. I was not kicking doors open. I was gently pushing them, and then they moved. But in that time, I was just fulfilling my own my own destiny in a way as a student. I was a good student in school, and for my parents, education was really the most important key. And so they made that very clear. And I enjoyed school, so it was not a lot of hard work for them. But you know, when opportunities presented itself to me, I was sort of very wide-eyed and open and said, yes, well, yeah, of course. So when I was invited to go to study music for the first time, because I was doing my studies in chemistry and mathematics in university, and I did music as an elective, a side course, because I enjoyed it, and I was going to get an opportunity to take voice lessons for the first time in my life, and so when I received the opportunity, the invitation to go to the Aspen School of Music during the Aspen Festival, was from a man who had heard me sing, and who thought that my talent sort of deserved a chance in an environment which was really more professional. And I just thought it was just a great idea to be going to Aspen, Colorado, because Aspen is not the Aspen, Colorado of today. There were no stars, the streets were not paved, and it was full of hippies. But for a student, it was an ideal place to go.
And full of music.
And full of music during these 9 weeks. So when I came to Aspen, I had no idea what I was going to find, but I knew that I was going to be doing music, and I always loved that, because the other option was that my organic chemistry teacher had offered me the opportunity to go with her to do complex ion substitution research in Vermilion, South Dakota, or North Dakota. I always confuse them which one it is. But anyway, so I thought, Aspen sounds like a lot more fun.
Well, your fans are pretty grateful, I'm sure, that you made that particular choice. You just mentioned, of course, the man in the audience who had heard you sing. Reading your book, there is, of course, your extraordinary talent, which opened doors which simply wouldn't have been open to others. But of course, there is also the kindness of strangers, the opportunities that arise because people at a certain point hear you and go that extra mile to make sure that you get the opportunity that you deserve. And you describe eventually going back to Lincoln many years later from Switzerland to give a recital to many of those people. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it started out with Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Mr. Smith was a lawyer and was on the board of trustees at the university. And I sang all begrudgingly for a meeting that a lady at my church was nagging me about. And I didn't want to because I had exams, I had final exams. And I said, you know, and finally I said, okay, just to get her to leave me alone, I said, I'll do it, but I have to sing at the beginning of the meeting, and then I have to go because I have to study. So he happened to be at that meeting and sent a letter to the voice teacher that I was taking lessons from and said that we would like to offer her a scholarship to go to Aspen, Colorado. And they followed me throughout my career in a very kind, benevolent way. They supported me the first year. They helped me pay my rent my first year at Juilliard, and they, you know, when we met later, they said we had no idea, we didn't even imagine that you could have the career that you've had, but we just wanted to help you because we thought you had that, you know, your talent should not have just gone to waste. And so what happened when I was to go back, it was the anniversary of the symphony, of the Lincoln Symphony, and they had invited me as a special guest, and so I went. And I sang the concert. I was not in my best form, but it was an opportunity for me to be able to say thank you to them. And it was really the last time I saw them all, really.
One of the things about your career is that, of course, you have become an ambassador for the UNHCR. You have remained, in a sense, political. You've remained active. You keep in your life. You've visited refugee camps around the world. Do you think that, in a sense, having lived through the events of your youth, having seen how political change is possible, having seen how people can suffer because of politics, because of segregation, because of any number of factors, that in a sense you had to remain at the forefront of the fight for human rights?
I think as a child I really had I think most children have a very strong sense of injustice. They feel that very strongly. And I think that because the child in me is really very, very alive, that I never lost that. But when I received my own rights as a citizen to vote in 1965, I consider that to be the most important part of that was that it gave me the responsibility to be a citizen. And that was something, that responsibility is what makes me free. Working for the UNHCR has definitely given me a possibility to put into action my beliefs about human rights, about the fact that humanitarian action begins at home. It begins where we are. It is a way of life. I'm not in any way a saint. I can be as intolerant as the next person. I have to work on my intolerance, but I am very conscious of it. And so the UNHCR has given me the opportunity to meet refugees. I was recently in Ethiopia with refugees from Somalia and Eritrea. Their courage, their dignity, particularly the women, who comprise more than 80% of all refugees, inspire me to continue to try to be an active and productive citizen of the world.
Barbara Hendricks, thanks very much indeed for having spoken with us. That's it for today's interview. We'll be back, of course, very soon with another. Do stay with us.